ITD Food Safety would like to welcome you to the Temp Taker 3 handheld training video. This lesson will go over some of the most common functions you will perform while using the Temp Taker within your kitchen. Let's begin with a tour of the Temp Taker and its features, starting with basic keypad navigation. The center button serves as your enter key, used for progressing you forward through the various on-screen menus or to confirm or execute a given choice or program. The left arrow key is for scrolling through menu choices and for backing out of a given menu or program. The up and down arrow keys are also used for scrolling through various menu choices, but may also be used to reveal additional functions on certain Temp Taker applications. Additionally, holding both the up and down arrow keys simultaneously will rotate the screen 180 degrees, allowing for single-hand operation when used in combination with a fixed probe attachment. Lastly, the right arrow key is also used for scrolling, as well as revealing additional functions on certain Temp Taker programs. Now let's take a look at the various applications available to you on the Temp Taker. Pressing any button will power on your handheld unit, bringing you to the main menu. On this screen, you will notice some fixed information on the bottom of the application icons. To the left is your calendar date and time. Next is a small graphic that looks like a lock. This lock tells the user if someone is currently logged in or not as a user within the handheld. When the lock appears open, someone is logged in. Next is your approximate battery life remaining, followed by a daily activity counter. This counter shows the user how many temperatures, checklist questions, and/or overall data points have been logged for that day. As we scroll through the main menu, we start all the way to the first option on the left, which is the power off button. The next icon over is the login application. Here, you can select your self or kitchen position from a list of available users, and then proceed forward into executing a program within Temp Taker. Please note that this application is optional, as the Temp Taker will automatically prompt the user to log in regardless before executing any program within the unit. The next application is called Tilt, which stands for Time in lieu of Temperature, otherwise known as Time as a Public Health Control. This application is for programs where a food item will be initially temped and then tracked by the user as either discarded or consumed at the end of a set time period. The Corrective Sessions icon is where you go to address a food item that you found out of range and are trying to recover through either a reheating or a cooling down of the item in question. The Take Temps application is where the user will spend most of their time, as it houses all of the kitchen's temp taking programs and checklists. Spot Check Temps is where the user can quickly and easily take a temperature of a given item or food product without entering into a program. By hitting the center button, the user is placed into the application, where the probe is now reading the temperature in real time. By pressing the up or down arrow keys, the user can change the readout to display various degree resolutions. And when pressing the right arrow key, the user can toggle between Celsius and Fahrenheit. The Timer application is a series of 3 separate timers that can be adjusted to either count up or down from a set amount of time, and all 3 can be activated simultaneously. To set a timer to count up from 0, simply press the center button. If you instead would like to count down from a set amount of time, use the up and down arrow keys to set the amount of time needed, then hit the center button. Once countdown has completed, the unit will alarm the user with sound and lights. Next is the Clock application, which gives you an easy-to-read date and time display. This display can be toggled to a 24-hour readout by pressing the right arrow key. The Settings application is where you can perform a variety of functions, including adjusting your Temp Taker's display brightness and contrast, as well as reset the calibration of your temperature probe, either manually or to factory defaults. View Saved Data is an application where you can review the logged events that have transpired in the handheld, but have not yet been uploaded to the software. When using standard Temp Taker settings, once the unit syncs with the software, this data will be cleared from the memory of the handheld and will become available only in the software under the Temps Data Reporting section. The last application is Info and Statistics. This icon will lead you to additional information about the temp taker's recent activity, battery power, and memory usage. The user can also find the handheld serial number and current firmware version embedded in this section of the handheld. Now it's time to take temps. The first step will be to log in, and the user will be prompted to do so by simply entering into the Take Temps application. Simply choose the user or position you need, then hit the center button. Once completed, you will enter into the program's menu. If your unit has the 4-digit security PIN feature enabled, you will encounter the following screen after selecting the user you want. Simply use the arrow keys to find the number you need and push the center button to select that number. Upon selecting the final number, if correct, you will then be placed into the program's menu. Lastly, you may enter a specific program through an alarm reminder. Temp Taker can be programmed in its software to remind users when it is time to take temps of specific areas of their kitchen or food service. Once the alarm goes off, follow the prompts on the screen to proceed to the program. Once in the program screen, the user then locates the specific program they are looking for and presses the center button to proceed. Some users may encounter a series of dates instead of program names, which simply means your administrator has customized your needs to specific days to help avoid confusion for the end user. This is commonly found in locations like school cafeterias who use set rotational calendars with menus that change daily. To demonstrate how to take a temp, we will select the dry storage room from our equipment program. Since there are no food items present to temp for this training video, this will allow us to witness what an in-range temp will look like. Simply remove the probe from the unit's storage compartment and make sure to place the tip of the probe into the center of the item you wish to record. Once in position, press the center button to record the temp. When a temp falls in range, the LED light blinks green and the screen displays an in-range message. This event is now logged within the Temp Taker memory, and the user can press the center button again to return to the previous menu, allowing them to proceed with temping the next item on the same program list. Occasionally, a user may find a temp that is out of range. For our training video, we will proceed to a food item with its temperature parameters set at a hot holding range of 140 to 165 degrees. In this case, meatballs. Imagining the probe has been placed into the meatballs, we press the center button, only now to receive an out-of-range message accompanied by a red blinking LED light. At this stage, the user is prompted into beginning a corrective action. By pressing the center button, the handheld then provides the user with a list of available corrective options they can choose from. They can opt to remeasure the temp again if they felt the item was not probed correctly initially, or choose from a list of additional actions complete with varying instructions. Some choices, like the option we will choose here, begin a corrective session. Because we are choosing to reheat the meatballs, the Temp Taker will now instruct us on how to go about this process. And once accepted by the user by pressing the center button, the session now officially begins and a countdown timer is displayed. The reason for this timer is so that the user may proceed back to the program they were executing and continue to work without stopping to wait on the corrective action. If the user ends up forgetting to address the corrective session, this timer will eventually trigger an alarm to alert the user that this item still needs a resolution. Once the user is ready to check on an item in corrective sessions, they simply return to the main menu and locate the corrective sessions icon. If there are any items in corrective session, the number of how many active sessions are occurring will be displayed at the top left of the icon. Once this icon is selected, this will display all of the items in session, which can be scrolled through using the arrow keys. In this case, all we see is our meatball sample from earlier. We will again imagine to place the probe in the food item and press the center button. If the temp had been in range, this would have been logged into the unit and the session would be completed. If the item remained out of range, like we see here, then further actions must be taken to come to a resolution. In this case, we will choose Discard, which will terminate the session, and log the item as being thrown out. In the event that the user forgets to check on a corrective session, the following alarm notification will take place. The user can then follow the on-screen prompts to access the food item right away. If the user misses the previous alarm or refuses to address the session, the food item's timer will eventually expire, forcing the item's session to be purged without resolution. Please note, corrective actions themselves, their session timers, and the ability to include a secondary corrective session on the same item can all be adjusted in the Temp Taker software. Please notify your administrator for any program adjustments. Now, let's review additional programming features available on the Temp Taker. A Temp Taker program does not have to consist of only temperature recordings. Another feature on the Temp Taker is the checklists feature. These are programs designed by your administrator that usually house procedural questions in regards to daily business operations. The program opens with a list of short questions that, once entered into, provide a more detailed explanation of the same question. The user simply uses the arrow keys to toggle between yes or no and presses the center button on the selection they choose. Just like taking temps, this data is recorded and uploaded to the software for later review. Another feature that we will also show here is called the checkoff function. This function can be toggled on or off in the software and can make program items disappear as they are completed from the list. The administrator can also set the checkoff function to reset automatically at the completion of the entire program, repopulating the list immediately to be ready for the next user. If the automatic reset feature is turned off, or if the user simply stopped partway through a program and needs to begin again, they can manually reset the list by navigating back to the Programs menu, highlighting the desired program, and then pressing the right arrow key. The user can then follow the prompts to reset the program. Next, we have tilt programming. This program behaves a bit simpler than the standard temperature programs, as it is designed to monitor food per the rules involved with using time as a public health control. Tilt programs are actually located in the Take Temps application on your handheld where the other programs are, not under the tilt icon on the main menu. The tilt icon is only used to address a food item once its timer has begun. In this case, we again select meatballs from the program list for our test, but this time you may notice the wide temp range that is displayed. Again, this range is just for testing purposes, as the tilt function needs the food item to be in range before the timer will begin. Once the item is checked and is recorded as in range, the timer begins on how long the food item should be served. Once a food item's timer nears completion, the user is automatically alerted by an alarm asking them to address whether the item has been consumed or if the user will instead discard the remainder of the food for safety reasons. Using the standard Temp Taker software settings, if the user does not address the food item and the timer expires, the item will be purged as discarded automatically by the system. Syncing the Temp Taker is a simple process. Under standard software settings, when you sync a Temp Taker to its software, the recorded data in the handheld is pushed into the Temp Taker computer program, and the memory of the handheld is then cleared. To sync the Temp Taker, simply plug in the provided USB cable into the computer that houses the Temp Taker software and connect the other end at the port at the top of the Temp Taker handheld. The only requirement here is that you need to make sure that the Temp Taker software program is opened on your computer. The sync process will happen automatically, and the screen will display a message saying everything was uploaded correctly when completed. If you sync the handheld while not having addressed all unresolved items, say for example an open corrective session, you may encounter the following screen. If so, the software will provide a warning of the issue in greater detail on the computer screen. Notify your administrator and then follow the instructions provided on the computer screen to resolve the problem before attempting to sync the handheld again. To access the Temp Taker's battery and probe compartments, simply remove the probe from its storage port and slide the cover off. Here you can find the Temp Taker's serial number, as well as multiple ways you can mount the unit in your kitchen location, both by wall screws or with the included magnets on the back plate. To replace the probe, simply remove the screw at the base of the probe cable and unplug. Temp Taker can actually operate on 2 AA batteries instead of 4 if the need arises. If the user decides to use only 2 batteries for operation, please note that the user must install the batteries on the same side and in the same bay together in a pair. Otherwise, the unit will not power on. This concludes our Temp Taker handheld video training session. For additional questions or information, please visit us at www.itdfoodsafety.com.